Hey folks, how are you today? I'm going to talk to you about saving our stabiliser. So let's say I wanted to do a project that had 6x6 blocks. Now if I've got a 5x7 hoop, if I didn't have a 6x6 hoop, then I'd need to go up to my next hoop size, which for me will be 8x8. Okay, so as you can imagine, I'm going to use quite a lot of stabiliser, but there is ways of actually around this. I'm pretty frugal when it comes to actually using stabiliser because I like using a really good quality one, so therefore I don't like wasting. So let's have a look to see what we can do about this. So I want to use my inside of my hoop as my guide. I've got some stabiliser here. My choice of stabilisers will always be, I prefer cutaway. Cutaway for most things. I'm not keen on tearaway, I'm not keen on see-through. I just like standard medium weight cutaway. So how much extra do we need in our hoop? Well, basically we need enough so as that when the cutaway is actually through the hoop, we've got enough to hang on to, we've got enough to manipulate, enough to pin. And I think, personally, I work on about 3/4 of an inch or 2 centimetres. And therefore, I'm just going to cut a piece off along here, and that should be, I've got 3/4 there, 3/4 there, I've got roughly 3/4 here, 3/4, 3/4, 3/4, 3/4 up here. Let's have a look. That should be enough. So that gives me my stabiliser, but it gives me a really odd shaped one left over. Very, very odd shaped, but we can join that or we can patch that. So let's get this together. First of all, we want to hoop this up. Now, loose hoop, centre it, place the inside hoop into position, make sure everything's not wrinkled, then we tighten. You don't push the hoop into the outer. You actually let it sit in nicely and then let it tighten. Now, I'm just going to put some T-pins. These are upholstery pins you get from, well, here in Australia we get them from places like Bunnings or craft stores, etc. In the US we're probably looking at Home Depot. Something like that is more of a industrial fix rather than something for the domestic market. So I just put my pins along my long edges because my short edges, which are curved, they will stay into place quite happily. You could put one at the top, one at the bottom. Some brands of machines actually have clips which clip around your hoop. They're a good idea as well. I had a machine that had the clips on. It was great. I loved putting them on. Did not like taking them off because I could never work out how to get them off successfully. I'm sure there was a knack to it. I just didn't get that knack. So before I do anything, I'm going to actually embroider this block out. So I just want to mark. I like to mark around the edge, and that gives me an idea. When I do my first block, it gives me an idea of actually how much, whether I've got my stabiliser too loose or whether there's any creep in the design. That's how I test a block. Usually it's absolutely fine. It also means that we can use these marks for later on if I decide to use this interfacing again, or sorry, the stabiliser again. So I'm just going to go off to the embroidery machine and embroider a block. I'll be back. Right, I'm back. So let's just have a look at what we've got here. Let's just remove this from the hoop. Now, that would be absolute waste. Look how much I've got here. So I'm just going to get my ruler and I'm going to actually just cut my block out of this piece of stabiliser. So I'm going to add my seam allowance, which is going to be 1/2 inch around the outside edge, and I'm going to actually just leave a window. Just leave a window. So with my rotary cutter, I'm just using my small one for fussy cutting. I'm just going to come back past my corner about 1/2 inch, so as I can create some nice clean corners. Doesn't matter if you get too far past. I probably haven't cut that one quite enough, that corner there. So, one more. Right, so there's my block. And there is the hole that's left behind. Now this strip that I could actually join these all together and use this for something else, or because it's the right shape for the hoop already, I have this piece of offcut which I could just put into the middle of this and patch it. So let's just, so I can probably get 3 different blocks out of this. The idea is to have around about 1/2 inch all the way around the outside edge of this. That's the idea of it. If you don't have 1/2 inch, well, 1/4 is fine, as long as you sew exactly in the middle of here. Because what we're going to do is we're going to put a piece of washi tape across the corners. Just going to position this into place. Right, so I can, now some people will pin along the edges, some people will actually use a glue, like this is just Elmer's washable school glue, and you can actually put this onto the stabiliser quite happy. This one here goes on as being purple, and then when it dries it's clear, and it will actually adhere the stabiliser together very, very well. It's very, very easy. It does work. Because we're doing in the hoop and we have to take the hoop in and out, in and out, in and out to do our trimming, I'm just a little bit concerned that this may not hold long enough. It does, but if you leave it overnight and the night is humid, I'm just worried that will actually give way, and I don't want that to happen. So I'm just going to go to my sewing machine and just stitch around the edge of this square. These are just overlapped. I'm going to sew in the middle. Of the overlap. I'll be back in a second. Right, I'm back. So, can you see that I've actually stitched with a long stitch into the corners? So I've done my square. That's what it looks like on the back. So I've adhered it. So it is nice and strong, and I can go ahead and re-hoop and do another block. Now, I like to try and keep these marks I've made, I like to try and keep these into position so as I know that my square is going to work out for when I do my next block. Now this is great when I've got the same size block, but a lot of things that we do at Sweet Pea, you do use the same size blocks. So let's just see how this works. Trying to put this into our hoop and getting this all lined up is a bit difficult, but there's a way around this. What we can do is turn our inside hoop over and we can put some tape just along the edges, just on the underside. Let me find the end. And generally I just put a piece top and bottom. Very easy to do. So this is just double-sided tape. I spend most of my time trying to get the taped paper off, but I remember seeing John Deere, he took it off with a piece of, with a pen, and it was much easier. So let me just turn this across and line up my squares and then press and press. And look, it comes up with the hoop. So when I put my hoop, make sure it's undone properly, nice and gentle, all into place. My lines are all there. Tighten, 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 tighten. Put my pins into place. And off to do another one, but back in a second. Right, so we're back. So we've done our block, and it's sitting inside our cutout, and it's not moved, hasn't pulled away, so my registration marks are there for two reasons. These marks are here for two reasons really. One, to make sure that everything stays in place, and the other one to line it up when you were putting it back into our hoop. So let's just take this out and have a look at it. So there's my block, and so what I would do is just unpick my stitching. Now the stitching has been done on a large stitch length. It has been done on a large stitch length, so it should be relatively easy to pull out. It is. And we are left with another gap to fill. We can even use the same pieces of washi tape. We're being ultra green here. Normally I wouldn't, but just make sure it's sitting right. The most important thing is it has to sit flat, and I know people that would go to the machine and just stitch it, and that's fine. But if there's any puckers in it, then it's not going to work. So there we're ready to go and to put that into our next hoop. Here's our completed block. We just need to trim it up, and we have saved ourselves. So out of that strip of fabric, we're going to get 3 blocks done, rather than wasting 3 of this size. We're going to waste this one eventually, but at least I can cut it up for strips and join it. Now we can join batting as well, so I'm a great batting joiner. So you can see here I've got a triple stitch, and the triple stitch, all we do is we cut. Make sure we've got straight lines, and we just butt them together and stitch with a triple stitch down the middle of the join, which is melded together, or what we call butted up together. Now the thing with this, I use a triple stitch rather than a zigzag, because a zigzag sometimes gives you a bit of a ridge when it's stitched. It gives you a bit of a ridge, whereas the triple stitch will actually, it gives you stitches inside the seams of the cut edge. It makes it slightly thinner. It doesn't give you a ridge, and with a matching thread colour, you never know you've done it. I do this quite a lot on quilts, especially bigger quilts. I will patch, because again, this stuff is expensive if you're buying decent quality, especially if it's got scrim in it. And the product that we use does have scrim in it, so therefore when we actually stitch it together, it doesn't stretch and go out of shape. So I hope this has been a bit of a help. I quite enjoy saving product because it does save money, and in these times where we're being a little bit more cautious about what we're spending as far as product goes, we need to look at what we've got in our stash already. If it comes to it, fabric, craft cotton or calico or quilter's muslin, not cheesecloth muslin, but quilter's muslin, which is woven, They can all be used as stabilizers instead of our cutaway. It gives you a nice handle on a block, especially if you're making a quilt. Hope you've enjoyed this. I'll be back with some more hints soon.